Alex Terrace here. I am a wellness equipment health product researcher, also a dealer and distributor for upwards of 100 different companies. I'm one of the few people in this industry that help consumers to do their homework, helping them to discern through marketing BS and find out what products are actually legit, and just educating about the backstories behind companies and products so that, again, you can get clarity on what's actually going to deliver the best possible therapeutic outcomes. So if you have any questions and you need my guidance, it's free, 7 days a week. My email is in the description of the YouTube video below, so send me an email. If you're looking at any other particular products. In this video, though, we're going to dive into and bring clarity to a very, very confusing situation that involves PureWave, Quantron Resonance Systems, Vinci Medical. Superhuman Protocol is what Vinci Medical developed, and also 10x Health, which is Grant Cardone's company. You may know Gary Brecka, who was, playing a big role, kind of as an ambassador type of position almost, in 10x Health, and of course now has the Ultimate Human sort of brand as well with Gary that he expanded into. So let's jump into it. What is confusing? Okay, so what is confusing is that, let's first dive into this video, because my video here also is a bit of a rebuttal video. It's kind of, it's a further clarification video on something that a lot of people have seen, 1.1 million people, which is Dana White's body transformation by using the Superhuman Protocol, again, developed by Vinci Medical, okay? So in this video of the different modalities that Dana is using, he uses a PEMF, okay? And I'm going to give you the truth about that specific PEMF. So in other words, if you were trying to find that PEMF, I will actually help you find that real, legitimate PEMF. So let's just, if you can bear with me, let's watch just the very, very brief clip, because I want you to visually see what the PEMF is, okay, in this, because it's been white labeled by a different company, and I'm going to show you the actual manufacturer in a second. So I want you to actually visually see it. So let me expand this, and we'll just watch it for a few seconds here.
Human protocol. The PEMF pad, cold plunging, red light therapy, and oxygen therapy.
It's on super fast speed. Sorry about that, everybody. I watch all my YouTube videos super fast, so I apologize about that. Let's bring it back down here. He's talking about his PEMF pad. So first off, take a look here. We walked into the room. Notice it's a gray pad, right? That's the first part of it. That's the full-length body applicator for the full body.
So this here is the PEMF pad. I actually have this at my bed at home. So this goes in your bed. The machine right next to it here, you turn it on.
Okay, so that's a super close photo, right? I'm not going to complain about that. That's a great clip here. So upper left-hand corner, right, we see the name PureWave, okay? Then we see the name PEMI right here. PEMI is completely made up, by the way. So it didn't always say that. They just made it up. Normally, obviously, the acronym is PEMF, right? Pulse electromagnetic frequency. This system has not changed. It's still a PEMF. You would still refer to it as PEMF. This is a purely marketing move by just doing a different acronym. So then you gotta walk through the steps here, right? You as a consumer, you're like, oh, but this is PEMI. And then they can work their sales magic, which is like, yeah, it's different than a PEMF. Well, it's a little bit better. See what I mean? Now you can't go on Google or go wherever and say, oh, I'm going to find a different PEMI, right? A different PEMI. See? So that's sales strategy. That's just purely a sales move. Doesn't mean anything at all. This is a PEMF device. Okay. So, all right, note the layout here, the time on the sec. And on the right-hand side, all the buttons, take a look, okay? Now, the other thing that they did change on this, just to kind of try to pretend that they're different, even though this is just a white label, and I'm going to show you the real machine in a second. See that first there? You can't quite see it, but it says Tranquility, okay? Oh, gosh, what did that used to say in the middle? Well, on theirs, I got to look it up. But basically, normally what this should say is basis and relax basis. And vitals. So that one also says vitality. So they kind of kept that similarly. So they just changed a couple names here also to appear to be different. Didn't always look like this, by the way. some years prior, but this was like, I don't know, the second version of their label on top of this. But let's move over here to my Google Drive. Looks pretty similar, right? So it says relax, basis, and vitals on the left-hand side. All the buttons are the same. And y'all can see this pretty clearly. You can ignore that, like that's an older model actually there on the right-hand side. Let me just scroll down and see if I can also find you. Their brochures are, by the way, are amazing here. It's a lot of good information. Yeah, you can kind of see also like the rendered image a little bit closer and more precise, and see there's no PureWave there on the left. Normally it's supposed to have a little QRS symbol right there at the top center point. Okay, and the color scheme, as you can see, just slightly different. It does not say PEMI. Okay, so they basically were white labeling and just sticking their label on top of a QRS. QRS stands for Quantron Resonance Systems. Just if you were wondering about that, Quantron Resonance Systems is the company in Germany. Technically, the business name was QRS International. QRS International. So if you got one of these machines, on the backhand side, it would say the manufacturer name, again, which would be QRS International. And it would actually even tell you the medical facility that's made at over there and the appropriate serial number, if you've seen some of my videos. All right, so as we bounce back on the video again, just so you can take another look again, okay? So they have the same applicators or quote unquote accessories and attachments. Okay, now how did PureWave end up with this? That's an interesting backstory I won't get into, okay? But they were sort of distributors or dealers at one point for QRS International. If you really want to know the whole backstory, it's kind of interesting of how the PureWave couple owners got started. And then they sold from QRS, again, a white label, for several years. And then QRS International, they closed down that company. Dr. Fischer is the one who owns these companies, by the way, Dr. Fischer. And then Dr. Fischer started a new company under the name Cell Vital. Okay, Cell Vital International. So that is what the new models of PEMF, so again, the new models of, which one? The new models of this, okay, that they're under now Cell Vital International. So if you look on the back side, and I'm going to show you a video in a second. If you look on the back side, it'll actually it'll say Cell Vital on the back, okay? Now let me show you what the new model looks like. Okay, so let's push play here.
What the real.
See how it's a little flat now? It's flatter surface on the front. Okay, that's basically what the new model looks like. It's half the size of the box. It's shaped more of a square. Okay, and there's a couple different functions on it. That's what the new model, Dr. Fischer's company, Cell Vital, again, that's what they're producing in Germany, just so you know, okay? So if you see any old like PureWaves out here, again, this is the original QRS 101 home system is the name of this model here, okay? So what happens now is that not that long ago, PureWave, this is their website right here, purewave.life, PureWave stopped being able to get those models, the old PEMF models from Germany, okay, from Dr. Fischer's original company. And so they were selling those PureWave PEMFs, which is really a QRS, to Vinci, okay, when he had put together the Superhuman Protocol. So that PEMF was part of the Superhuman Protocol, okay? The reason it was part of the Superhuman Protocol is because at least 10 years ago, it was a while, I was actually talking to the owner at Vinci Medical. And part of the Superhuman Protocol back then, they were using a beamer, B-E-M-E-R. I then educated the owner on the superiority of the QRS PEMF technology. Instead of going direct to QRS, to Dr. Fischer, okay, and becoming a dealer, they decided to go through PureWave, okay, which was white labeling, okay. But now, what's happened is that they are unable to get the new model. And so they scrambled and they found, I don't know, some random manufacturer, I'm not sure who, to produce their PEMF. So what does that PEMF look like? This is what the PEMF looks like. That is now the PureWave PEMF. Okay? This is a completely, obviously, just from looking at it, this is a completely different PEMF system than the white labeled Quantron Resonance System. Okay, the QRS 101 home system. It's completely different, right? And also the pricing on this is a lot higher. They were selling the QRS at the far upper end of the price point more than anybody. The original QRS 101, they were selling it for $5,500. Most of the dealers were selling for $3,500 to $3,950 or $3,995 for that same system. Okay, and obviously, as you can see now, the price is a lot more than that QRS, white label QRS. And we don't know anything about the manufacturer of this PEMF here. So they basically needed to, PureWave needed to replace their system with something else because they were no longer able to obtain, okay, the QRS original models of the 101 home system. Now, let's get into the claims because now it gets more interesting. Okay, so first off, if you want to do Dana White's PEMF protocol, and it is still today one of the best PEMFs in the world, the QRS, okay, and PureWave no longer sells it. Okay, if you want to get that system, just reach out to me. I sell it, okay? As a dealer, I sell it. So I do sell some other PEMF for very specific musculoskeletal needs. But outside of that, if somebody has like a very thin budget, really the best one for many reasons is sticking still with the QRS till the day. It has more research efficacy than anything around. And there's nothing even actually remotely close. So now let's get into how this is all extremely misleading and confusing as far as what the current iteration of PEMF is that PureWave is selling. That's under the 10X Health brand and Vinci Superhuman. Let's look at the claims here, okay, for their new PEMF right here. Newer. More energy, less fatigue. Just basically you can read them, okay? Reading about these different benefits here. Now, all these benefits, health benefits in the body and more, and additional ones, all of these were very, very appropriate claims, health claims, that could be derived from the QRS, Quantron Resonance System, from Dr. Fischer's PEMF, okay? All that was very, very appropriate claims, very well backed up. And very exciting, because when you look at all these, and there's even more, you're like, oh my God, yes, please, right? Heck yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, I know. But that goes with the original system. They are no longer selling the system. So what they've done is they've kept all the same health claims. Okay, let's see if we can also find more health claims. Yeah, I thought there was more on here. Anyways, they kept all the same, on a different page, they have more health claims. They kept all the same health claims, but they've just swapped out to a completely different PEMF. So you can think about what you think about that. I don't think it's the most honest thing to do. But yeah, so if you have any questions about my claim here, then it's very simple. All you need to do is say, hey, for this list of claims, okay, these are actual health benefit claims. In other words, there should be metabolic proof in some way of how each of these are achieved, how their current new generation is achieving these benefits, right? Otherwise they're lying, right? So all you need to do is simply ask anybody that's selling this, more energy, less fatigue, how? Performance and recovery, how's it doing that? Can you prove that? So when you ask, okay, for any of these, I don't know if you're going to be too happy with the answers that you'll get, okay? But I can just tell you that the answers that you do get, they should not be as vague or just kind of, they shouldn't sound like this, okay? Like, what's balanced cellular activity? You see how it's like a little overgeneralized? There's nothing wrong with, being just a little more overgeneralized, right? When appropriate. But if you actually wanted to like have a deeper dive, like how does it contribute to healthy blood flow? How does it improve health flow? How does it help more oxygen get carried to reach your cells? How does it do that? Do you see what I mean? Like what's the exact mechanism of that? But you won't get that answer. You're going to get it's going to be an answer, but it's going to be just as kind of generic or overgeneralized as this. They're not going to get too deep into the actual function. In other words, they're going to talk usually more about the body and what it's doing to the body and less about what the PEMF is doing or how it's creating those effects, okay? And then when you get answers, always feel like, okay, well, if I don't fully understand, even that answer, I'm not satisfied, you always ask a second follow-up question to the answer that you're being provided. Sometimes that's also a way to find out that there isn't really an answer when you do a follow-up question to the answer that you were given. The answer that you're given should be extremely precise, and it should, unless you have a good working understanding of biology and physics, okay, the answer generally should maybe be a little bit of a challenge for you. It should sound very technical. It should be a little over your head, okay, in terms of the explanation. But for the most part, you're not going to get technical answers like that, okay? So what does this PEMF actually do? The answer is nobody knows. Nobody really knows, okay? That's the truth, okay? So if you have any questions, you found any part of this confusing, you want me to expand on any points at all, okay? And if you have any desires to actually get your hands on the original best system that at one point they were promoting, and you want to get your hands actually on the new model of the original system of the QRS. It's also known as the QRS 101S. It's also known as Cell Vital Home Care. Okay, that's what the new models are called. They have different color schemes or aesthetics. That's the difference between them, but they go by both of those model names. So if you really want to get your hands on that, you can. And I would just tell you this, it's still the only PEMF also that has a 6-month return window. Okay, the QRS still has a 6-month return window. No other PEMF on the market has anything remotely close to that, because the satisfaction rate generally with most PEMF is not that great. So when you don't get good outcomes, what do you want to do? You might have buyer's remorse. You might want to return the PEMF, right? So I've sold a lot of different PEMF, and I generally know what the satisfaction rate is. And if you are confused about why other PEMF don't perform well, I do have a video on my YouTube channel, which I'll put in the description box below, that goes over some of the waveforms, the common waveforms that PEMF produce. Okay, so like sine wave, square wave, trapezoidal, you get the idea like that. So sine wave and square wave are the most common you see out there. And a lot of times if a company doesn't disclose their waveforms, which is already red flag, usually most of the time it's a square and or sine or a mixture of both. But those waveforms, they can be okay for short-term localized musculoskeletal usage, okay, for treating something for short term. But that's about it. They're very limited in their scope of therapeutic action. So I'm not saying they don't work. It's just that they're limited, and even though they can help with those very specific conditions, there is a trade-off. There's a drawback to using square and sine. In other words, there's things that it does to the body that are not good for you. I haven't seen anybody talk about that. Okay, because most people haven't even done their homework on the physics and the research and the findings of what waveforms are doing on a cellular level, and deeper on a subatomic and atomic molecular level, what's it doing to ions and things like that. So actually a lot of PEMF can harm you. They can disrupt cell signaling. They can disrupt core cellular metabolic processes. Don't think that there's PEMF out there that don't necessarily have side effects. And the challenge is that when people don't know that, they might use it, they might get some minor result for something, and they think, oh, it's working, and they just don't even realize they keep using it incorrectly for things they shouldn't be. They might be treating their whole body, and it can start to get a little sketchy. And it's going to take a long, long time for them to figure out that potentially some of their future health issues or side effects were due to using some particular PEMF. So I'm just saying it's not all rose-colored in some of these product categories. There sometimes are some like legitimate health concerns and or like kind of a gray area. Like it's still sort of an experiment, if you will. And there isn't necessarily research. Like I'll give you an example. It's kind of obvious. Like this particular PEMF right here, that PureWave is using right here, there isn't necessarily research on their specific PEMF that you see here that is claiming and proving that it is safe. Okay, does that make sense? So it's just something to consider. It's not just the fact that like there are certain health claims and things, you know, that certain goals in the body, things that you want, and a lack of research proving that the PEMF can help you achieve those specific health benefits or effects. I mean, there's that. But then you'll also, again, find with most PEMF, there's also a lack of research that's proving that there won't be any disruptions to your body, that there wouldn't be any health consequences. So that's like a whole other thing that you probably didn't even think about. You know, like, is something truly safe? Or is there potential contraindications if I have some specific kind of condition? Okay, and it goes beyond like, oh, I have a pacemaker, right? That you find a lot of like, if you just find a contraindication section in PEMF, and you'll find them, they're always the same generic shit. Honestly, they're always the same generic stuff. I'm sorry, but yeah, there's other types of contraindications when you're starting to disrupt certain cellular processes where you can exacerbate certain conditions. But that's deep. It's deeper than most companies want to go. They just want to sell their products, you know, and nobody wants to talk about it, you know. But anyways, if you have any questions, please reach out anytime. My email below, fit4reviews@gmail.com. I can guide you on PEMF and many other modalities, many different products. I have expertise in several different product categories. Anyways, thanks for hanging in there.